My first area, we were sitting in a home teaching a lady. She was one of my favorite people. The gospel did so much for her. We were sitting teaching. It was in my first area. My trainer and I hadn't been there very long, and the door was open, so we could see out the door. And we noticed a young girl run by, maybe 4 or 5 years old. She looked scared. Not that far behind her was a very mean-looking man with a large stick, a long piece of bamboo. And the lady, in a hushed tone, said, "That's the man that killed my husband. Shot him, killed him." We asked why he wasn't in prison. It wasn't in prison. She said, "Well, he did a little bit of time, but now he's out. In fact, he's killed 2 people before in his life. He's not a very nice person." So, it was a little unsettling, but he had passed by. It wasn't long after that, the little girl ran by again, headed the other way with him on her heels. My trainer was a very brave elder, and he jumped up and said, "Come on, elder." And we followed after. And as we came around the corner of the house, we got there just in time to see him take that piece of bamboo and swing it and catch her behind the legs. And he just dropped her flat on her back. And my companion got right in his face and yelled, "Hoy!" to get his attention. Well, the guy turned and saw my companion there, and my companion was ready to tear the guy to pieces if need be, which is kind of funny because at that point he was fairly skinny and scrawny. He'd lost. Before his mission, he had been a hockey player, football player. I mean, the kid was, he was no stranger to fights and physicality. I mean, he'd been stabbed before in a scuffle after a hockey game. He was used to the rough life. So he was not afraid. But the guy pulled out a big knife. And the blade on it was about that long. And he was just standing there, stick in one hand, knife in the other. My companion was just staring him down. I thought, I'm going to see my companion killed. This is not good. So I started looking around for a rock, a stick, something. I felt very defenseless. It was just a stalemate, the 2 of them standing there, staring each other down. The little girl got up and ran, took advantage of the situation. The man, noticing that she had gotten up and run off, turned his attention from my companion, with one swipe cut that piece of bamboo in half to a more manageable sized stick, and took off after her again. My companion heads off again. "Come on, elder." So I grabbed the other half the stick, thinking, I'm not going after this guy without something to fight back with. And he says, "Put the stick down. We don't want him to think that we're in for a fight." I'm like, "Okay." So I put it down. But my companion spent the next several minutes trying to talk him down, trying to find out why he was doing this. What's wrong? Why are you doing this? And he was upset that he had gotten home from work and his young daughter had not cooked the rice or brought the water in for the evening's use. And so he was beating her with a stick. And she was able to escape. And he calmed down a bit and took off. And the people praised us after that and said that we saved the little girl's life. There was a good chance we saved her life. He would have beaten her to death. He was in a rage, and I don't know if that's true, but I know it was eye-opening. It was a bit of a shock. My knees were knocking a bit at the end of that one. We saw tough, and that wasn't the only time something like that happened. My trainer had a knack for getting in between people and big knives and things like that. So that was a pretty crazy situation, especially for having been there maybe 3 weeks. That was not something I was expecting or was used to.